All right, another day, another hot video and cup of tea for Marvel Snap. We've got Hercules coming to the game. In this video, we're going to talk about whether you should be getting this card. Do you want to spend tokens? Do you want to spend spotlights? What cards synergize well with Hercules? Originally, I was not in love with this card. I'm still thinking it's probably pretty niche. We'll look at the spotlight graphic we have together and see how it ranks against others. So first, let's jump into Hercules. What kind of card, costs, power, etc. It is a 4-cost card, 6 power. So you can use Zabus to get it a little bit cheaper if you want. What does it, as far as cost to power ratio, 4/6 is okay. It's not great, it's not bad. The description on this card, the first time another card moves here, each turn, move it to another location. So it's got a bounce effect, but only for one card. And it's going to be with cards that move there first. It can be your card, it can be your opponent's card. I had a thought that maybe this could synergize with Kingpin, but when you're using Spider-Man, that doesn't work well because your Spider-Man will swing over to it first, and that will cause that card to swing over to Kingpin. And I'm talking about the Kingpin that's been data mined that's going to put negative power on cards that move there. So maybe with a Polaris or a Magneto, but then you've got a Polaris Hercules Magneto lane that is almost guaranteed to win. A pretty solid power there. But where else are you going to win, right? And it's really going to move cards there. Maybe they bounce back to the Kingpin lane. That could do something maybe, but it's not guaranteed to go to the Kingpin lane. So we will see. It's an interesting effect. So I think mainly Hercules is going to be synergistic with your Human Torches. I guess multiple man if you really want to, but really your Phoenix Force multiple man situation where you really destroy that card, you build it up, you get it big, and then you want to move it around as much as possible. And you're just really pumping that card to other places, just really just sticking and moving, sticking and moving. Obviously, Human Torch is going to be big if possible, if you can move it there each turn, or even with the Phoenix Force Human Torch, that could get gigantic, but obviously it's going to be represented as a, what? Phoenix Force is a 4-cost card there, or is it going to show up as Human Torch as a 1? You pair that with Kyra. Wait a minute. Human Torch move Kyra? Uh-oh. Phoenix Force, Kyra, Hercules. Oh my lord. That could get huge. Taskmaster at some point? And maybe you just bounce it around and then Taskmaster drop it. I don't know. Something to think about. It could get pretty big and could get kind of fun. We're going to look at some decks here in a little bit to see what some other folks are thinking. I'd say generally speaking, this is definitely a move type situation. I don't think it's going to be super synergistic with a lot of move, like I mentioned before, move to bounce out with the Kingpins. We'll see if anybody comes up with some decks. I like to highlight these decks now for what people have got out there. There's been a lot of talk about that deck credit, etc. So I want to give a little love to those folks who've put some effort in to find Hercules decks. Still, having been a little bit through the video, the card is better than what I originally thought. I'm not sure I'm willing to say and or tell people or spend myself tokens on this card. Depending on spotlights numbers, we'll see. I think we'll decide once we look at these decks. And actually, before we look at the decks, I want to look at Meek. Really, I know how Meek works. So let me tell you. So Meek gives you extra points when you discard. It moves, and Hercules could bounce Meek out of there, but really, I'd say Meek is a card it's a light Morbius that moves around the board. It gives you extra points. It's a card that you maybe want to pair up with Morbius, but I don't think there's necessarily going to be any synergies with Hercules. So now let's look at the decks. And shout out to Marvel Snap Zone. They've got a bunch of stuff on here, and we're going to go through this like we did earlier. Typically, Pulse Glazer's got a bunch of stuff on here that he's pulled from somewhere else or made himself, but he's really good about giving credit. So we'll see that. It looks like there's actually, compared to what I've looked at before here, not a lot of decks. I will say that. Okay, so it's very interesting. One thing that just popped out at me, Captain Marvel. I wonder, I don't think that'll work because Captain Marvel moves at the end of the game, so I don't think Hercules is going to proc, but I saw that and was like, that's interesting. I didn't mention Vulture earlier. That could be something that you could absolutely bunch. Vulture and Phoenix Force, that could be pretty solid as well. Maybe synergizing with Heimdall as far as moving it into Hercules and it bouncing a card back, so you know that you get some additional points for that. I think that type of thing is like some big brain play. Very interested to see what Molt makes of this. He's one of the bigger move creators out there, so I'm interested to see what he's got. So let's see. Pulse Glazer's first one here. He's got a Drew Berry copy. I'm guessing that maybe Drew came up with this one. He's got the Kingpin. So we were talking about that before. Again, though, I'm worried about this Spider-Man synergy here, because if your Spider-Man swings into that, then that Spider-Man is what's going to go into the Kingpin. I worry about that a little bit. Stegron, I like with the Kingpin a little bit. Juggernaut, I like with the Kingpin. Arrow, I potentially like with the Hercules, and then back into the Kingpin. We talked about Polaris and Magneto already. The Hazmat's an interesting ad. I can't say that I'm looking at this and just going, I mean, I don't know. I don't know why I'd necessarily add the Hazmat. I would, if I'm gonna have Hazmat in this deck, I would maybe try to find a way to get Abomination in here somehow, but that just feels weird. Sarah in here, okay, I like it. The King, or I was gonna say, where's maybe Shadow King, but then you could reset yours, but that doesn't make any sense either because it hits your opponents too. So I would adjust this a little bit. I think there's an interesting foundation similar to what we talked about before. Werewolf by Hercules. This is another Glazer. He doesn't give credit to anyone, so I'm assuming it's original creation by him. Werewolf by Night, I think, has fallen off dramatically. There's a reason I didn't necessarily mention Werewolf by Night, because honestly, I mean, I guess you could maybe bounce it, but if you've only got 2 on reveals, but then it's Hercules, 2 on reveals, and then your Werewolf by Night comes in there, so you could keep playing it on the same lane to get the points if you don't want to play in another lane. That's an avenue. I can't say that's something I'd necessarily love per se. You've got a lot of other move cards in here, but I mean, if you move Jeff into it and it bounces it back, okay, who cares? Craven, Iron Fist, all of these type of things. Maybe you Iron Fist a Human Torch into Hercules, and then it bounces it back out. But that's a lot of late game stuff. Maybe that comes late into your Craven. I could see that being decent. We talked about Spider-Man already. Silk, it just moves Silk more, no big deal. I don't think that's anything special. You can Ghost Spider something into your Hercules. I think that could be solid, given if it's a Human Torch. But I think this deck is going to lack the power to do much, to be honest with you, just looking at it. This next one here we got on the bottom left. Let's see, what do we got? A lot of moves. Ghost Spider, we talked about Human Torch. Carnage, Phoenix. Okay, so now we're starting to lean into the Phoenix Force, but we've only got, we've got Carnage and Venom as our destroy decks. We've got Doctor Strange. I like the concept there, where that can pull something into it, maybe bounce it around. Doctor Strange, though, I mean, maybe it could finalize move your Phoenix Force if it's got the Human Torch. You lay Doctor Strange on your Hercules last turn. It brings the Phoenix Force over there and it bounces. There's some RNG to that. We'll see. We do have multiple man in this deck. We have Vulture in this deck. So I like what's going on here. I think there's a lot of Dagger. I think that there's something to be interesting in, where you actually, Dagger is a mention that I should have mentioned in the front end. Ghost Spider Dagger. Imagine Ghost Spidering your Dagger into the Hercules lane and then daggering back. I think that could be sick. You use Dagger as the Phoenix Force, same type of thing. That thing moving around, it's just getting big. I like it. It could get pretty solid. So this one is so far, I think, as far as leaning heavily into the move, I like. The Doctor Strange, maybe. We'll see how it goes. I get worried a little bit about the limited destroy here. I do like Hulkbuster if you get it. You get a 1, a 2, a 3, and then a 4, but then you're not destroying anything. So I would maybe want a way to get some extra energy. I don't know. I like there's some options there. Chimera. Let's see. Is this similar to what we were talking about before with the Chimera? All right. So we've got Hood, Forge, Ghost Spider, Human Torch, Iron Fist, Nico, Falcon, Cloak, Vulture, Beast, Chimera, Hercules. All right. The Cloak and the Ghost Spider. Yeah. Okay. So you're moving those things around. Falcon to bounce things around a little bit. I don't know. I would want to find, I mean, I like the Chimera for the Human Torch, but that's it. I mean, everything else I don't really care. I mean, and the Demon, I guess. So this one, I think there's something in the Chimera Phoenix Force concept. I think this is a little going to fall short. I don't think this is going to get as big as it needs to. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. All right, this next one looks to be somewhat similar, where we're going Ghost Spider, Torch, Fist, Dagger, Craven, Strange, Falcon, Cloak, Vulture, Beast, Hercules, Heimdall. I like what's happening here. I think there's a lot of move potential. I think there's potential to get your Human Torch pretty solid. I would try to find a way to maybe put Chimera in maybe this one a little bit, because your Human Torch is going to move around maybe a little bit more. Your Vulture's not protected though. The Beast concept I feel like might be a little too clunky, though your Doctor Strange is cheaper now. I don't know, maybe not. I mean, maybe you beast your Human Torch, you beast your Iron Fist, you beast even your Dagger potentially, and you move them around a little bit. I could see that maybe being pretty solid. The next one, very similar. It's got the Magneto, no Polaris here. I do like the addition of Miles Morales there. A lot of movement. The Miles Morales card, I think you get that pretty cheap. That could be pretty solid. I think the Move Beast stuff, again, I think I might stay away from that. That could be pretty big brain stuff if you want to try to pull that off. Cloak. Yeah, I mean, a lot of good solid move cards here. PF by Phoenix Force. So this is leaning more into, you get an extra destroy card. You've got the Zola here. I like that concept where maybe you play around a little bit. If you maybe double up on your Human Torch or something, you put it into a lane, you put it back to something else, but you don't have your Kyra here to protect it from the Killmonger. That could be an issue. I like everything else that's going on here. There is the potential. You've really got to clear out a lane to destroy though with your multiple man and or your Human Torch when you're getting your Phoenix Force in there. But there's definitely something here. I like the concept of using Zola, bounce and move. Honestly, like the only thing you're gaining points with the Hercules here is Human Torch. I don't think this one's gonna go anywhere. I think that you know, you've got some move stuff in here. You've got your Ghost Spider for your Dagger, but maybe you Ghost Spider again your Dagger into your Hercules and it bounces back. That's pretty solid. The Falcon really only brings up the ones, which I guess maybe you could play around with the Human Torch a little bit, but you're not moving the Human Torch all that much. Maybe just trying to hide it. Let's see. Never Ending Pendulum. A lot of similar cards here. Nothing. Absorbing Man. That's an interesting concept. Why do we want Absorbing Man in this? I can't say that I love that. So, yeah, I'm not. I mean, maybe Absorbing Man with. No. I was gonna say Ghost Spider. No, because it wants to move the Dagger. Now, I'm not feeling that one. Hercules move Kingpin. This is we talked about before. Especially with the Spider-Man type situation. I mean, a lot of these are playing as if it's destroying things right now. And I don't know if that's, I mean, depends how that shakes out. So, but I like that the Kingpin eventually maybe just does the negative affliction. There's some potential here again with the Kraven. I think as I look at these, the stuff that intrigues me the most is going to be the Phoenix Force. A lot of these other ones, I just don't know if they're going to be enough without it. I mean, bouncing around and Kyra, especially if you lean into the Human Torch aspect of this, I'd want to have Kyra in here. I just think it's important. So to me, as I look through these, Human Torch, Vulture, multiple man, and then I'd go the Phoenix Force. I don't know. Hulkbuster would be nice. But then when does Hercules get played? You know what I mean? I feel like it gets real clunky around that 3, 4, 5 range. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It could be a problem, but if you find a way to get Phoenix Force out early and don't get overly greedy, I think it could get pretty interesting. And then maybe even the potential of, well, no, you can't Taskmaster because then it's clunky. It's too clunky. But I like the idea of maybe, you know, Hercules in middle left or something like that, bouncing your Phoenix Force into it, Heimdalling it back into that, and then bouncing back. I think that's the way I'm probably going to look at playing this, is your Hercules on the left-hand side. And this is the point for those of you stuck around to the end. And if you did, please consider hammering down that like button, comment below. Helps drive the algorithm a little bit. But that's how I'm probably going to look at Hercules, is maybe putting them left, or Heimdalling into that Hercules with a card that I know is going to bounce to another spot and get some more power. I think that's where you're going to get your big brain plays. And so to finish this off, let's look at our rankings on the graphic and finalize whether we think this card's worth it or not. This is our graphic. The way this is set up is we've got easy skip, good niche, solid, save 4. Now, obviously, depending on your collection is going to vary for people on this thing. So first, somebody who does not have a lot of tokens or a lot of spotlights, I'm going to tell you, skip this card. Unless you are obsessed with move and you just want to do everything you can to find a way to make move decks work, then in that case, I'd say go ahead and grab it. Now, I didn't mention Howard the Duck and Werewolf by Night are the other two cards in the spotlight. For me personally, they do not add any value in this. Werewolf by Night before, yes, now, no. I just think it's too hard to get that card to do what you want it to at this point in time at a 4-cost card. Howard the Duck, I think, is still honestly trash. It's just, there's so many other 1-cost cards in the game that are way better. So if you're in that spot, that's my advice to you. Now, if you're somebody who's sort of in that mid-range, honestly, as far as spotlight keys and your tokens, I probably give you the same advice, is that I don't think, because right now we've got this as a good niche solid card. It's like, yeah, unless you really like that type of card, or that type of meta or that type of gameplay, it's not for you. And if you're limited on resources, I wouldn't stress about getting it. Yeah, that's for your middle. Now, anybody who's got a lot of spotlight caches, a lot of tokens, but still likes to spend in a way where you're like, should I get some or not? Same answer, honestly. I hate to say it. It's the same answer. Like, unless you're going to play move, no, I think most people are going to get this card are going to be move lovers and content creators or people who just have to have every card. That's what I see happening with Hercules. I don't think Hercules is going to shake things up dramatically. I think you're going to have games where it's going to be like, oh my God, Hercules and Phoenix Force, Hercules and this Human Torch with Kyra. Oh my God, it got so big. This was amazing. Yeah, I think so. But with the meta the way it is right now, with a lot of big cards, a lot of blobs, a lot of negative afflictions, maybe a little bit of scarring, which I don't think is, I don't see how Hercules necessarily changes any of that. I think it's going to be a card that potentially helps you out in the future. And again, I think it's going to be a card that a lot of move players are going to absolutely want and have to have, and you're going to have some pretty big brain plays with it. And I think those moves are going to be great. But if you're not going to fit into that niche, if you will, I think you could pass on it and you're not going to necessarily stress about it. That's what we got. Again, I appreciate you making this far in the video. If you want to see any links for any socials, etc., all that stuff's below. We like to stream. We like to hang out on Discord, Twitter, etc. So until next time, we hope you have a wonderful day.